Good afternoon, good evening to those of you who are viewing us online. This is a live streamed session. And just a reminder, of course, we encourage all of you to tweet, share information on social media. If you're tweeting, please use the hashtag WEF22. So in 1984, William Gibson wrote a novel. But many of you will be thinking, why am I opening this session about biotech revolution with the mention of Neuromancer, which is in fact the title of the book in question? Well, the book opens with the protagonist having his nervous system function restored with a sort of form of cell therapy, stem cell therapy. Now, the point being that back in 1984, Gibson imagined the state of biotechnology and bioengineering that we're only now beginning to consider as potential in the future. So only now are we entering the age of biological and health technologies revolution. So what are these latest advances and where are we likely to go with them? So with me to discuss this very important topic, we've got Werner Baumann of Bayer, Gianrico Ferrugia of the Mayo Clinic, Dimitri de Vries, Royal DSM, Megan Palmer, Professor at the Department of Bioengineering at Stanford University. Do you in fact see it as a revolution? Has the pace been such that it warrants that terminology, or do you see it more as a gradual progression?
That it is a revolution in the making, because if you look at what happened before, for example, with COVID vaccines, there have been 20 years of research that went into it, and then all of a sudden, what started to be very much focused on cancer was applicable to infectious diseases, and that is, of course, a tremendous translational advancement. We see the same in a number of other fields. We co-founded a company by the name of BlueRock that was focusing on something that ties very nicely back to the novel that you just mentioned. And there's, of course, a huge advancement if you look at the last almost 50 years of no scientific progress in the field. So
an answer of a politician, a revolution in the making.
Right, because every revolution has an evolution in it.
The really holistic view, right? The sort of systems thinking.
Let me state clearly that it has to be a revolution. Also, the health of our planet is under attack. And there's a sense of urgency to act, and we need a revolution, and we need biotech to help save the planet. I think the techniques which are currently developed are highly revolution. It's a revolution in itself.
Very good. A call to arms. Excellent.
But the big question is, what is our destination? And there's a rapid maturation in the tools and technologies, biological systems, and I think there is growing recognition that this is unlocking a vast potential across a wide array of sectors: health, in manufacturing, in environmental remediation. Right, how do we unlock the bioeconomy? So we're seeing an important policy window come up where countries and companies alike are articulating their biotechnology strategies in order to really harness this revolution for all people and the planet. So yes, we're in a revolution, but we need to be bold about the destination, and we need to use the revolution to do things differently.
We have to make sure that, let's say, supremacy is driven by better and pro-competitively better solutions.
Collaboration, again, across the public and private sector and across countries is going to be key to facilitating that.
Breakthrough innovation no longer lies in the mind of a person, though it sometimes still does. And therefore, it's more about priming the field rather than priming an individual.
I want to zoom out a little bit. So what we see is we have an economic system which fails because some of the products are not priced right. Give me an example, CO2, right? Certainly we get now closely a CO2 price. If that CO2 price is a global CO2 price, biotechnology will be favored against some of the traditional processes. For me, that's indirectly funding, but in the right way. So not a big pot of money, but create pricing in the economic system which accelerate the right innovations. And then I think the revolution of biotech is certainly there. And that's within DSM we're working on. Then I think some of the innovation will be easy to accelerate. So the pricing of innovation is far more important.
Oh no, what is at stake in being able to have a transition and factoring that into a number of different policy instruments that can support, right, the carrot, sticks, and sermons that are coupled to governance.
Right, exactly. And so a pot of money is always nice, of course, but what I heard you say was actually an analogy to that systems thinking that Gianrico was talking about in the context of the actual biotech process.
The governments have a role to play.
Right.
We also need to have an open innovation mindset from the governments and to help everybody to bring biotech as a great source to create health for planet and health for people.
So when I think about a revolution, it's associated with risk-taking and open mindset.
Think about a revolution as sort of many turnings of the wheel. I think what we need is just many, many more experiments. Here we have, thousands of experiments happening every year.
We got to make sure that true innovation, in particular breakthrough innovation, is appropriately incentivized and ultimately rewarded.
Realize where failure occurs and at what stage it occurs. We have to relook at our clinical trial infrastructure. Have a parallel process for pragmatic clinical trials that can be done now with digital technology closer to either the home or to the primary care office is going to be essential if we're going to be able to in parallel do what you said, which is do many things at the same time. But this massive need to wait until the last minute for the phase 3 is a bottleneck, and clinical trials have to be really looked at again to be able to accelerate what we're all talking about.
But of course, there is so much that's happening also in the food context as well, in the context of agriculture. Very clearly, transforming the food system is an important priority.
And we will only solve it with new and better innovative solutions. Actually, to your point, Magdalena, biotechnology can play a huge role. If you look at agriculture or the food chain overall, accounting for roughly 25% of global carbon emissions, is how to take major steps in decarbonizing the food chain. What is in the making by a number of companies, and we also have a number of projects on that one, is whether we can teach plants that cannot fixate nitrogen out of the air to do that. And there are ways biotechnology can help with, where we can teach plants to fix that nitrogen, and there's an opportunity to reduce maybe 30% or 30% plus of global nitrogen fertilizer production through the means of biotechnology.
On biotech playing a key role in become more sustainable for health for planet. I think we have a key role to play. In the current setup with innovation, CO2 is seen as a problem. However, if you can use CO2 as an input material for these bugs to be happy, then you have a win-win. And I think biotech has a key opportunity to play, but also a capability, and therefore also responsibility to fund that type of programs.
Right, these are the original dreams, the advent of biotechnology, right? In the 1970s, if you go back to some of the first meetings around the mothers and fathers of genetic engineering who spoke about what are the moonshots that we need to get through with this technology. And so, we're at a point now, nearly 50 years later, where we now appreciate the sophistication of the science and technology required to tackle those challenges. But we're in a transition point where we do need the business models and the policy and the partnerships that can take that foundational science and technology and really bring it to scale. And so that's where the transition is often happening. It's not just about the foundational science and technology. It's everything else. We need to do that at scale, sustainably, and really in the interests of all people and the planet.
That's right.
Yeah, I think there's a lot here. There's a growing conversation about critical and emerging technologies, of which biotechnology is in the same phrase as revolutions in AI and quantum and other areas we see as critical to these transitions. Something that's important to remember, though, is that biology isn't a typical technology, right? How do we make sure that everyone is literate in biotechnology, and that's a formidable challenge, and it needs to start from the very beginning, because we all have a stake here, right? It's our bodies, it's our lives, it's our environment, and so we need to be bold in this important policy window in charting these trajectories that can actually get us to that future and not be solely stuck in this incremental evolution.
Very good point. So that literacy, of course, now you make me think about the pandemic. We've all become so much more interested and so much knowledgeable, much more knowledgeable in the space of certainly virology and immunology. Let's ride this wave. During the pandemic, it was the first time I had a conversation with a taxi driver about PCR, and I never expected that to take place. So absolutely, and that boldness, I like your challenge.
But they're experiments, right? We have many experiments across many different countries. Now is the time to take stock of those lessons learned, but also, again, build the alliances. We need to transition towards more sustainable, secure, and resilient platforms. And if we can begin to talk about biology as the opportunity to transition, that's what's going to be needed to, again, get past a fairly narrow frame.
But there's one topic we haven't touched on, which I think is hugely important in this context, and that is trust. From the society, trust in biotechnology, in the innovation that we talk about. Where are we now? I think we all know where we are, but where should we be in the next year, 5 years? And what's the best way towards ensuring that the society, the public, trusts these biotechnologies?
Yeah, maybe I could try. I think if our kids talk about biotech as they talk about digital revolution, I think that's a huge step, and I think what you just explained is key. Secondly, this is not about policy, about regulations, about stories. I mean, we have plenty of those. I think it's real evidence, real examples where we save people, where we save the planet. What we do see is that if you come with great solutions, so for instance, stevia as a sweetener, which is fermented via biotech, and it's successful in one country, the other countries wake up and say, oh, hold on, and say, yeah, but listen, I mean, your regulation needs to change. Then it goes quick. So real examples are hugely important to create that trust.
I like this combination, riding on the wave of digital revolution to help this as well. Very quick comment, Megan?
I think it's exactly this. Lead with actual benefits and values, and then build the systems that actually can include everyone, right? We have biology all around us. It's an opportunity, just like the digital revolution, to engage everyone in the process of innovation, and that is what engenders trust.
I think trust needs to be addressed maybe somewhat differently, and it goes a little bit quicker. You do not necessarily have to understand everything in order to trust. But you have to be convinced of, let's say, your counterparts or your stakeholder environment being genuine. We have to open up. We have to make some processes that we are subjected to, let's say, open for any stakeholder group that is interested, because the very moment that there's an impression of, let's say, something happening closed door, behind walls and curtains, people start to be suspicious, because quite frankly, we don't have our fair share in the public debate. And we are not necessarily the most credible constituencies. So we really have to step up in that field.
Thank you. I'm going to turn to the audience. One question, time for one question.
Yesterday I was in the session with Bill Gates, who emphasized the importance of biotechnology and synthetic biology and nanotechnology. What advice can you give me as a professor in the university, Sultan Qaboos University, in order to help our students and our graduates? I'm lucky because I'm an academic, so I still have my job. But what can I do to help our students and our graduates?
Become a politician.
There you go, become a politician. We're going to have to take this question as a comment, really important comment. We have come to the end of our session. Thank you so much to my panelists who are engaged in an active discussion, and thank you to all of you.